Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary LaChance, a spiritual healer, advisor, and teacher.
And I'm Carla Augustin, a spiritual teacher and your co-host for tonight.
I am your host for this thought-provoking series, and I'm dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times. If you have a group that you think would be interested in what we have to offer, we are available to come to your group and teach. We will give you our contact information at the end of the show. Please visit my website and click on my TV show, where you will find a wealth of information about this show.
These shows are now available for you to watch on YouTube for free. Just go to YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We're constantly adding new shows, so please keep checking back. We're also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. Please like our page for the latest information about the show, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, this is our 229th show. And the title of this show is Religion and Spirituality. And back by popular demand are our two wise men, John Baldino and Phil Liquori. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Phil.
Nice being here.
Let's see.
Hi, Carl.
Hi. Thanks for being here.
Okay. Everyone was thrilled with your appearance, and they want to hear more for what you have to say.
Oh, wow.
So, from now on, here and after, I proclaim you are known as the two wise men. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start asking questions about our title of our show, Religion and Spirituality. Now, how has religion affected your spirituality? John, you can start.
Well, religion for me, the origin as I was born into my religion.
Right.
Okay? And as a result of that, I began to absorb that which religion gives me. Acknowledgement and understanding of God, Jesus Christ, how we serve Him, even rites and performances and prayers, etc., was all part of it. But I discovered that later on I began to come into what I would call a critical junction. Mm-hmm. And that would be a transition for me. Mm-hmm. I moved from what was an origin of my religion to a transition. And that transition led me to a direction of spirituality. I grew from one, but my growth wasn't as comfortable for me in a religious state. And so I took on, I tried to develop more of my heart, my mind, and my soul towards a spiritual development. And I needed all three to reach that point, so that, in essence, a mind, a heart, and soul are what we give to God, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And based on what that is given to us, I tried to grow spiritually. Mm. And that spirituality grew far faster than I felt I grew from a religious point of view.
Right.
So I accepted that and began to grow with a greater understanding. So see, for me, a religion was more of a physical understanding. Knowledge and understanding. But when I moved into spiritualism, my wisdom and knowledge and understanding grew in a spiritual level. It just extended apart I'm not saying it's separated, but the feeling was different. The growth was different. I began to see things that I never saw before, heard things I never heard before, felt things I never felt before. My mode of perception changed. And so that the spiritual part of me began to develop, so that I, in essence, began to change. And the spirit within me is discovering that I'm of the flesh and I'm of the spirit, but it was the spirit that grew, because the spirit for me is soul in spirit. The soul is, in essence, the deepest part of me, and the soul had contained love, but the spirit contained truth and knowledge.
Well, it sounds like that you have religion in your life. Religion and spirituality really complement each other,
Sure.
and kind of go hand in hand, which is nice, because I think in society today we tend to think of it separate. Either you're religious or you're spiritual.
Yeah.
But it's nice the way you say it, that
Yes.
it's really kind of goes, for hand in hand for
Very
you.
perceptive of you. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it, Carla, exactly. And I felt that was important. And so I began to develop things in a spiritual domain, and felt comfortable with that. And so I began to move in that direction. But like I said, my mode of perception began to change because I became more aware of things. Like I said, it was different. I became more sensitive. And that sensitivity brought me to a greater awareness.
Wonderful.
So you see, I began to move outside of myself. See, that self-centeredness to a spiritual centeredness would be to God-center. So that makes a difference in terms of my behavior,
Oh, sure.
in terms of how I see people, how I perceive people, how I want to do, or what I want to do for people, not against people, but for people and with people. So having a spiritual growth was a spiritual involvement of oneness with Jesus. So you see, I become in him, through him, and with him, so that I express my spirituality is expressed with a combination of God and me and God, and express it outward. So it becomes more of a caring, sharing process.
Good. That's wonderful. Wonderful answer. How about you, Phil?
Well, I have to agree with John. I grew up in the church, altar boy, and I certainly enjoyed those early years serving Mass. Funerals, weddings, holidays were wonderful. But I had reached a point in my life when it became
Look at me.
normal. It was empty. It was lacking something. And one day I realized there was a void in my life within me. And that's when I started studying, reading about the saints and whatnot. And I actually stepped out of my religion into spirituality. It grew. All of a sudden, it was like going from high school to college. All of a sudden, I jumped, and my whole life changed, and there was something very good and peaceful within me, and it's been growing ever since.
So when you said you step out of, do you still feel religious? But,
Oh yeah,
yeah, you do. But
I'm
this
beyond
kind of
that
puts
now.
you to something.
And you can
Went
have a
down a different-
relationship with God now,
Right.
Which it became almost mundane, and you went through the motions. But now I don't have a problem. It's the emptiness is filled now.
Okay, great. So let's see. So we kind of touched on the second one. What is religion to you? What do you think they made changes to the Bible from the original Dead Sea Scrolls?
I don't know that the Dead Sea Scrolls were in the Bible, were they?
No, they took them from the
Do you think they took them from there?
Well,
Bible was written from it, right? From the Dead Sea
Yeah,
Scrolls.
we can go along with that. The Bible itself, by its structure is different. But when you say the Sea Scroll, that was a period of time which more, I think, would address more of the Old Testament.
All right. Oh, that was more of the Old Testament.
Sure,
It was.
because of that period of time, and it was written at that period of time, so it addressed more of the Old Testament than the New Testament.
All right. So then the New
see-
Testament is more by word of mouth, by what people wrote down, what they
Well,
experienced.
I'm not
Tell
a
us.
biblical scholar, but I'm
No.
just saying to you that what I know of the Bible is that, it had 40 authors, and it spanned over 1,500 writings and stuff. There was no per ownership, but it did start from one level, which was oral. But we're moving into the Old Testament and New Testament, two different aspects.
Right.
Because the books in one are set up as books in the Old Testament, and then there are books in the New Testament, and there are letters and epistles. So there is a significant difference. But what I've discovered about the Bible, and I enjoy the Bible, I enjoy reading it. And yes, I would say that for me, the scroll did play a part to verify the Bible in the Old Testament view. But the verification of the Bible itself as its content is a verification. What it said and how it said, the period of time it said. Because you see, the Old Testament, some of my readings indicate that what was given in the Old Testament was proven and shown in the New Testament. But you're talking about 700 years later,
Yeah.
Right.
a period of time that, so there was a truth that existed, and that truth unveiled itself through the Old Testament, from the Old Testament to the New Testament. That's powerful. Now, if you said to me that, what is the truth in the Bible? I'm going to say that for me, the total truth is its theme. And the theme itself, for me, is salvation. The coming of Christ and why, and the growth process. I think those are all the spiritual truths and beliefs we have. I don't find any challenge to those beliefs. But if you're going to view the Bible as a historical aspect, you're going to have some problems. If you're going to view it as a scientific aspect, you're going to have a problem. But that's not its intent, nor do I view it as its intent. So I'm just saying that for me, yes, it did have a role.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Okay, and I know that you teach the Bible, and
I share the Bible.
yeah, you share the Bible, make it very interesting. Explain to us how people thought in those days. Do you have a comment on the Bible, Phil?
I like John. I love it. I really do, and I refer back to it time and time again. I guess I can't say any more. John said everything.
All right. All right, Paul in the Bible said we shouldn't trade on the Lord. What do you think he meant? Who wants to go first?
Well, he was. I shouldn't use the word. He was a smoozer. He had a political way of convincing people. He got to know them, and he worked around their likes and dislikes, and eventually converted them. That's how I saw him. But he was very strong in the old faith, the Jewish faith, and then he became very strong in Christianity, and he pushed it as hard as he could. And that was really something.
Yeah. So in that
In that context, I'm going to say that that's an interesting context for
okay.
me, because I'm saying when you trade on God, the thought comes to my mind is that you're using God as a means to your end. You see, to trade on God, and that's wrong, because when you trade on God, you're moving a religion or a thought into a business, because you're putting a trade aspect into it, and I don't feel that is what it should be. So when Paul somehow said that, he, at his period of time, remember, they were selling religious aspects, sacrifices. It was a money deal, a transaction, And it always comes to my mind when I see Jesus in the temple and turning over all the tables and
Right.
the chairs and said, "What are you doing?" That's the concept I get when Paul says you can't trade on God, because when you trade on God, it becomes a business. And
Right.
I don't like to see it as a business, because if it becomes a business, then a religion can change its form. And so it changes its form. But you see, God can never change its form. He is true and faithful in what he is. He is and was and will always be. He doesn't vary.
Right.
You see, in a business concept, what he tries to develop is the fact that you can compromise. See, when you trade, you can compromise. God doesn't compromise. He has his belief, he has his structure. He says, "This is what I believe." How does he do that? Well, you see that when you talk about the Ten Commandments on the tablet. You talk about that when you say the Sermon on the Mount. Wow, that's great, but you don't compromise that.
No.
You see, you share, you care. That's the difference. So I laughed when I read that in Corinthians 2,
Yeah.
and I laughed about it. I said, "That sounds familiar," but that was written 2,000 years ago. Is he replaying that? It's like a rewind. All of a sudden, it's appearing now. Is religion becoming more of a business, of a trading situation,
Right.
rather than the passing of what life is with and without Jesus? I find it humorous.
I know. It seems like it is more like a business, because money passes through all the time. It's
Well, I could see the money as a need there sometimes,
Right,
but I'm just saying, let's look at it very carefully, because beliefs and disbeliefs, we have to begin to look at very carefully, because truth parallels with falseness, with lies. And that's what we begin to see. We have to begin to discern that. You see that? It's interesting. Phil and I were sitting in the room there on the other side, and they had a caption, and it said news reporting, values, moral values, lies and deceptions.
Fake news.
What?
Fake news.
Fake news. And I hit Phil on the corner. I said, "Phil, look at that. That's amazing." Okay? And I said, "Well, could you imagine if the Bible was classified as fake
news.
news?"
Jeez.
There goes everything we have, and my whole belief structure is
Yeah.
gone. And that's what seems to happen. Phil has that feeling about the change of society.
Yeah. What do you have to say?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to as far as the change in society itself, but the church, my church, our church, I see a change in it, and I'm not comfortable with it, quite honestly. But it's a habit, and I still do it. But I rely on my spirituality, my quietness, my prayer time, my novenas. This gives me back what I felt I had lost, and it rejuvenates me.
Okay.
Well, you touched on it. What is prayer to you?
Prayer is peace, quiet time. I love quiet time. I love sitting in the dark with maybe a candle or a small light. And I had a dear friend of mine, a priest, once told me, and he wasn't your normal parish priest. He was a deep thinker. And he said to me one day, when you go to church or when you're in a quiet room, don't pray, just wait, sit and listen. And God will speak to you. And I didn't really believe it, but it is true.
It is
true. If your heart is open, you start to think, and it comes in, to me it comes in thoughts, it comes in dreams, and I get what I call these little nudges as things to do. It's like I'm heading. We talked about a fork in the road, and I get a feeling I go to the left, and then I get this nudge and say no, go to the right. So I pay attention to it now, and it's worked for me.
John?
Going along with Phil's thought, I went to my spirituality and religion is still part of that, and it's part of that because I find a greater relationship with God. See, some religions may have God or gods, but they're at a distance. I'm fortunate in my belief that I have a God that develops a closer relationship. He comes closer to me. I become part of him. He becomes part of me. He's not isolated so far that I can be part of him. And so I'm just saying to you that prayer is my way, is one of the ways that that I develop a relationship with Jesus.
Right.
You see, prayer is just words that generate a deeper feeling for myself. But now when you go into the concept of a deeper feeling, yes, I could use words because prayers could be formal.
Yeah.
And prayers could be created by your immediate feelings and what you think at that time. That's powerful because it's instant, okay? And when you give your prayer, you're saying, well, I have to give words to express it. But I'm saying that a relationship doesn't always need words.
Right.
A relationship could have a feeling, a communication. Look, I'm married to a wife for 60 or some odd years. We can communicate without words sometimes. Maybe her more than me because she senses more of me than I of her sometimes. But I'm just saying that there's sometimes a silence is as a message sent out.
Yes.
And it's a mannerism, a smile, a look. And
You're just being.
being.
Just being with.
Yes.
Yes, you're just being with God.
Carl, that's it
yeah, just doing
exactly.
that.
You just feel it. You see, and that's a powerful situation. And even like Phil said, sometimes a silence. See, you could have silence, and silence could be a form of meditation or something. But silence could mean that let the spirit that's in you come out and share with the spirit outside, with the Holy Spirit. Capital H, yes, but the Holy Spirit. And so prayer could take any form. It could be spoken, it could be felt, it could be in silence. That is powerful. But if you look at it again, I look at prayer at another dimension. Because we see prayer is given as I want or I need. Prayers of intention. And then that's where the disappointment with people come in. But I'm just saying that people do the prayers and they say their prayers, yes, of want and need. But sometimes we have to see it another step. You see the postscript at the end of the letter, the P.S.
Yeah.
You know, prayer has a P.S. You could give prayers in words, but prayers can also be given in action by what you do. See, you have a volcano eruption or tornado, and you pray for those people. But how could you turn those prayers from words to God back to me? We do something with it. We send help. We send aid. You see, prayer could be more than just the words to God or to someone or something. Prayers can also be a giving situation.
That's a great concept, isn't it?
I know, it is
Yeah.
a great concept.
It widens the dimension of prayer. In the church, we have intentions. Prayers are intentions to express, think about, pray about this. Pray about the people who are starved. Pray about, but you see, you can make that next dimension by doing something with it. You see, prayer has to be more than just a self-centered prayer. It has to be a giving prayer, sharing. We have to begin to learn to do that because in essence, prayer is a reflection of love to God and God's love to us. But we have to move that one more step. We have to move from the love within us to the love outside of us, to give love to others. You see, that I'm just saying, look at prayer more than need and want.
Right.
You see?
You're right.
So,
I like to add to that too,
Sure.
because it's silence, and I often said silence can be heard. But you're right, in the social prayer that we talked about, the rosary or special intentions. But when you go into a prayer, which is to me a meditation, that you actually it can become hypnotic, and you're lost. You don't know anybody around you. You don't see anybody, and you could feel yourself within something happening. Suddenly, the feeling of emptiness is gone. All of a sudden, you're filled with something, and it's a joyful thing, and that's what I enjoy the most.
cool. Great.
Keeping with the prayer, religions tell us that we have to go to a church building to visit God, for He dwells there. Spirituality tells us God is in your heart and is with you everywhere. What do you think about this? I mean, you have to go to church to pray? You can pray home? Can you pray outside? What do you think about the place to pray? Is it necessary to go to a church building to do this? Are there other places? What do you think? To tell the people out there, because some of them really feel they can only do it there.
Well, I can only explain that with what I have previously said about prayer. That it's given anyway, anywhere, anyhow, and in any form. So, if you say with a religion, yes, there is in a religion or in a church situation, my church situation, Phil's church situation, it becomes a formal prayer. Mass becomes a formal prayer. Mass is a form of prayer because it enhances two aspects. It enhances what we talked about with the Bible. It brings in the Bible in its format. It brings in the storyline of Christ and the Eucharist, and it brings in formal prayer and structure. But it also unifies a community, a commonality with people. So you have a chance to share and be part of that. But that's one dimension. You see, if you're saying that the church is a place and the only place you can have prayer, for me, I would have to say to you no. I would have to say to you no. I can't do that.
Yeah, that people think
I'm
that.
just saying to you that for me, prayer is going on my porch and sitting and praying. Going to the park, sitting there in the park and praying. And I have to say that I have a deeper prayer relationship with God in prayer when I go to a private place. It just I just feel closer.
Right.
But that's me, you see? And I'm saying that that's a feeling that's captured, and it makes it personal. It's like two lovers.
Yeah.
It's, you're in a park holding hands, or you're walking to just yourselves. It's just the two of you. No pressure outside, no pressure inside, no demands. It's just pure joy and peace. And that's the power. But you see, the peace I get from God, Jesus, is not the same peace I get from people. It's a different different type of peace. You see, so in answer to that, succinctly, I would say that I think that prayer could be anywhere, anytime, any form. It's
Whether you're in a church, whether you're outside the church, it just doesn't matter.
If you think it's going to be in the church, then okay, when do you go to church? I go to church one day a week. Okay, well, and if I go to church one day a week, that's the only time I'm going to pray.
Right.
But that's how do you develop a relationship with God or with anyone if you only have a one-day encounter? I might as well live in California, you live in Connecticut, and I'll write to you. I mean,
Right.
it's just not. There's no relationship developing. A relationship develops when you become closer together, and so I'm just saying to you, I'm afraid that if that's the only viewpoint you have for prayer in a building, which means nothing because the building will be destroyed tomorrow. But no, I can't go with that.
Well, I like going to church. I love a beautiful church with the glass stained windows, the candles burning. I love novenas, but most churches don't have novenas any longer. But the Gregorian chants and the organ playing and the music and the singing of the spiritual songs, that adds a lot to me. I mean, to a point where I think I attended the Mass last week, and it was an hour and 20 minutes long. Most people were out 20 minutes. I didn't want to leave. It was so beautiful. I was so moved by it. I enjoyed the most. I really do. But to sit through a 3-hour Mass, which I did this past week in Fatima, and I watched the whole 3 hours, and it was beautiful. But it's what it does to you inside. I don't need to go to the church, but I have a longing for it from the old days, which was my base of growth, my solid base. And so I've expanded from there. Like John, I can go to a park and sit on the bench, and I love walking in the woods. I love it, and I get lost within it.
Keeping with that same question about prayer, a lot of people think they need formal words to talk to God.
No.
Like, I'm going to pray, I'm going to say the Our Father. Okay, I prayed. And then you say at the end, well, can I have this and that and the other and help somebody? It doesn't have to be that way, right? I've always said, to me, it's a conversation with God. It's, I talk to Him constantly. In the car, when I'm walking, when I'm in the house, I'll even joke with him, and
me too.
Right?
Yeah, me too.
He's constantly there.
Exactly.
So it
Because you have a
need-
relationship. That's what our wise men are saying, right?
Yes.
Because you have a relationship
Yeah.
with God, So it's comfortable to just be doing dishes and just start talking
right
to God.
And
yeah.
it's not formal. I mean,
No.
sometimes I'll have a bet and I'll say out loud, "Boy, she's really smart ass," or something like that, and then I'll go, "Okay, God, I know that was wrong, but you have to admit, I have that kind of conversation with you.
You have to. I totally believe when I wake up in the morning, I do my meditation, which starts my day. Okay, what's going to happen today? Or I'll dump my feelings into the laps of the Blessed Mother or Jesus. Okay, what do you want to do about it? And I talk like that person is sitting right there with me, and I'll complain to that person. I don't like what's going on, and I want you to guide me. And you have, in my mind, you have to believe the Holy Spirit is there all the time with you, and you have to acknowledge it. And if you don't, then you're missing something inside you.
So 4 of us are in agreement with that, right?
Yeah, sure. But if you push the Our Father a little further, can
Okay.
we step outside the box here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, the Our Father to me would be a prayer. That's formal.
Formal, right?
People feel comfortable with saying the Our Father. And because it's formal and it's memorized, it's easily accessed to you and you quickly say it.
Yeah.
But look at it in terms of its form, what it models. And therefore, any prayer that follows its model is a prayer. So you don't need something formal. So when it says, Our Father who art in heaven, you see, it identifies, so you could address God in all the time. You see, he says, Our Father who art in heaven. Who? I'm going to talk to God. And hallowed be thy name is you're going to bring glory and joy to God. You're going to give him praise and honor that he is. I don't need that particular prayer to do that, but you could do that in other words.
Right.
You see?
Yes.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Yes, what you're going to do is that you're going to live today as you would live tomorrow, that it's part of God, and you're living the day today, living with God and showing God, okay? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You could say that in any fashion, okay? And you're saying it's the future hope, faith, hope, and love.
Right.
You could express that in other ways. I'm just saying to you, that's great you memorize the Our Father, but for me, sometimes the Our Father is a model for me to express other ways in my prayer. Still addressing who? A power to be. give us this day our daily bread. Wow. You have supper, you have lunch or dinner, whatever, and you say prayers at your meal.
Right.
That's a prayer in itself.
Right.
You see what I mean? It's yes, you could say the Our Father, but don't be afraid to model the Our Father in saying your own prayer.
Right.
So that you could develop your own words. And that becomes more personal. You see?
When
And
Christ
I'm
taught
just
us-
saying, go outside the box.
Right, when Christ taught us that, he said, when you pray, pray like this. Like this. He didn't say, you must pray this way. He said, pray like this. The thanks, all the different things that are in it. Like you just said, you could put it in other words and whatever, and you could say that and then go on from there.
Sure.
Take it farther.
Didn't he do that? God, Jesus himself prayed constantly.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And who did he pray to? Supreme Being, to Father. Okay? And in his guidance and direction. That's what we ask for. Okay? Prayer at night, prayer in the morning, prayer at night. Hey God, I really goofed up today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's how I
Help
talk too.
me out.
Yep.
I really tried, but maybe be better. And sometimes it brings me to peace to sleep it and saying, yes, I know he's going to forgive me. I know he will help me.
I do. I say, you said you're going to love me no matter what, so you got to forgive me this. I know you're forgiving me, and I'm going to get better.
You
Just I
got
need
it.
time,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that a nice person
Yeah.
to talk to?
Yeah.
That's a
It is
relationship
nice.
you
That's
want.
a relationship.
Sure it is. It's like a father going to a wife and sharing, or a wife sharing with her husband, a father with a son to a father.
And expecting unconditional love, though. That's why you trust the
but you see-
relationship. Yeah.
It's love, but when you put unconditional
Conditional
love,
love.
it changes it changes love.
It changes love, yes.
It's a
Yeah.
deeper meaning for
Yeah.
me.
Meditation is like getting yourself quiet, right? You go and then you get yourself quiet, relax.
Shut the television.
Yeah.
Take the phone off the hook. It
Just meditate for a while and clear your mind.
That's right.
And see what comes up, right? And that's the start of getting into a nice prayer. Meditation first.
Well,
And see what happens.
The Our Father, the Hail Mary, you could say that over and over and it becomes repetitious. But if you think about it, that starts you off, and then you go into like
Yes, Phil.
it
Right.
goes to
Agree.
your own prayer. Now
Right.
suddenly you
It's so-
develop your own.
It's a movement.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling.
I find meditation and contemplation essential for me when I read the Bible, because I am connected in Scripture when I read it. Sometimes I'm connected to a specific word or a phrase or a theme, and I take that away, and I begin to meditate on it. See, you have meditation and contemplation, and two different dimensions for two different services, but it gives you a deeper feeling. See, it brings you to a beginning, a start, and meditation.
Right.
A silence. Transcendental meditation by a teacher of some sort, and they may give you a Sanskrit word or something, saying, take the Sanskrit word, meditate on that, and that'll bring you to the deeper part of yourself, deep within. You could do that with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And use his word and his direction, and let him take you to a greater depth and feeling.
I do remember one evening I was in prayer, and I didn't know how long I was in this state, but I can still remember my wife calling me. Finally, she came over and shook my shoulder, put her hand on my shoulder, took me out of this trance that I was in. I knew nothing, I heard nothing around me. It was a disappointment to come out of it.
You're, what?
I don't want this, right, Phil?
I was happy there. It broke me into the real world again, which I didn't want to be there.
That's funny.
So, kind of a two-parter do you think religion's forced on people? And do you think doubting, searching, and asking questions of religions can be positive?
Well, religion has, over the history, has been forced on people. Crusades, for one, which
Yeah.
That didn't work. I don't think religion should be forced on anybody. I don't believe that. I think you could reach a person with kindness, with gentleness, with understanding, and with an open heart to listen to an individual, and you can really change that person.
Right.
If you can convince that person to have an open heart, and once that heart opens, you can communicate.
That's right.
That's how I feel.
Should never, anyone who tries to force religion on you or force God on, or force anything
Any
with
belief
that.
system.
Any
Yeah.
belief system, right.
I won't accept forcefulness.
No,
I
never should be.
I can't do it. I may just smile and listen, but doesn't work for me.
What do you think, John?
Well, it will go back to one of the questions asked: is what is religion? And religion is a form of discovering God in another dimension, a celestial dimension. You want to get to know Him or search for Him. That's why we have religions that will have a God or many gods.
Yeah.
See, so the relationship where the establishment is different.
I remember you mentioned the unknown God. That was your God.
Yeah, they did that with the Greek gods.
Yeah, the Greek gods and all that.
Everything was a god, and if it was unexplained, it was a god. And then if they didn't know it, they would put a stamp and saying an unknown god. And I guess it was Paul that says that's my God.
The unknown one.
That was so funny. Yeah.
It was, I just find that's funny, but I think questions. There's nothing wrong with questions and doubts. I find that a very positive. You see, you can't take something when someone gives it to you. For me, let's rewind here.
Okay.
God gave us intelligence, He gave us love, and He gave us free will. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to us in terms of a religion or a belief structure? It says you will have doubt, John. You will have questions, but you have the intelligence to work it out and discover it. I have found for myself, when I have doubt, I begin to question. And when questions are given to me, it's a direction. Look, you're feeding us questions.
Right.
By feeding us questions, you're directing us to answer directly to the question. You see how the question directs us already?
Right.
So a question now, if I have a question in my mind, what will I do? I will search out the possible answers for that. And by searching it out, I will say to myself, do I believe that or not believe that? My Christian view is based on the concept, I believe that. You see, if I didn't believe it, I'll leave it.
Right.
Believe it and leave it, So you conceive it, you believe it, you expect it, you achieve it. That's mine. That's what I have to do. So I honor, I'm a teacher. And I'm saying I always like children to ask questions. Why would I ask?
Right.
Why would it show that?
Right.
Doesn't mean they're connected.
Yeah.
Right.
They have it. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And I always say to them, ask the questions. You're asking me questions to feed to a public I don't even see or know, but I'm answering you directly to what I feel and know. It's honest and open. And if I don't know, I would say to you, hey, hold on, I don't have an answer to that. I'm honest.
Right.
I won't fill you with a truth lie. You know what I mean? It's just not what it's supposed to be. My faith can't be that. My spirituality can't be that. You see the
Well, it
the
has to
difference?
grow. Yeah, it has to grow with you. I remember being in a spirituality class, and it was taught by a nun. And she said, so many of us still have a second grade understanding of what religion is because, we went maybe the parochial route. So you didn't question, you just regurgitated back what you were told. And we think going
Good.
into adulthood, we're supposed to be the same way.
Yes.
Whereas I'm glad we have this question because it is, no, you're supposed to question. You're supposed to
Sure.
ask. You're supposed to wonder, do I believe in this? Do I agree with this? Do I, you're supposed to do all of that. It's okay. It's the maturation of it, right? It's the growing into it and
Exactly.
becoming adult
Sure.
with your belief system or your religion or your spirituality.
You see, the book says that as a child you believe as a child. As an
Yeah.
adult,
Yes.
you come in as adult.
You put
When
away
do you break
childish
that line?
things, right.
Yeah.
You see, and if I'm always staying as a child, then I will be afraid to question.
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
what
I
it
think
is
that happens, right?
Sure. Well, in my early training, in religion's early training, everything was memorized.
Right.
Question, answer, question, answer, question. I never had time to delve into myself to fully understand what that meant. Not until I went into that transitional stage. Remember I talked to you earlier about my transitional
Right,
stage,
right.
that critical junction, and saying, I begin to question. But when I learned to question and search out, I didn't become weaker.
No. Yeah.
I became stronger.
Sure.
Because what does truth do? Truth won't fade. If the truth is there, it makes you stronger. If the truth is not there, the unbelief is there, it'll dissipate. It's gone. You see the difference for me? And I'm saying, there it is. So I would say to anyone, you have a question, ask it. And I always say to them, don't be afraid. Okay?
Yeah, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. I've been in situations where I've been in a class situation, I'm listening to a professor or someone speaking, and I say, I have a question. That's kind of, I'd like to ask that, but it's kind of stupid. And then all of a sudden, someone next to me says the same question I want to ask, and the professor says, hey, that's a fantastic question. And here I am sitting like an idiot and saying, I thought of that.
That's funny. Yeah,
See,
that's
so
true. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm sure that happens to a lot of people.
Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. If the person can't answer the question, you'll know the person. And if the person says to you, I don't know the answer, but let's look it up together.
Yeah.
There's the power.
That's nice.
But if the person says to you, lies about it or gives you deception about it, you already have information for you. You see the difference?
I know.
So don't be afraid to question, to doubt.
Right.
Be a Thomas. I don't care.
Right.
I've heard this from people, like I know religion introduces you to God, but it doesn't give you all the answers you need. So you come to a fork in the road. What does that mean to people? They're wondering, God, should I search farther than this? Should I join something else? What should I do? I feel guilty because I was brought up in this religion. I feel guilty because they say if you leave the church, you leave God, and so forth and so on. Do you have an answer for people who have that question in their mind, who feel guilty? Because it comes to the time where it doesn't serve them anymore. That religion doesn't serve them and their questions and their life anymore, and they want to look other places, but they feel guilty. Could you tell them that? Could you have this?
Sometimes on Sunday mornings I'll watch these TV evangelists, and I switch from one to another to get their outlook on life. I learn a little bit from them, I do, but I can't just believe everything that's said. And the introduction that they give regarding the Bible is the way many of them tell it, the way they see it, and you're supposed to believe it.
Right.
With John's Bible study, he allows us to open up our own minds, and we interpret it. Every individual interprets it in a different way, and I admire him for doing this because he's filling us with knowledge that he's making our minds work. And that's important.
He always asks us, what did you get out of that?
Yes, that's right.
Tell me. He
He
always
tests
say that
us.
to us, yeah. And we go, But sometimes we have answers, questions.
Yeah.
Well, you could see that you have different Bibles.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
And you have a King James Version Bible, Book of Catholicism, the Catholic Church's Bible. And you could see that they differ in terms of content as well. That the church and the Catholic Church has in its book 7 more books than the King James Version book. Why is that? The canon says that this is what we accept and this is what we reject. Well, no, it accepts this. This is what it's given. Well, this other book says no, we don't want that, and that's fine. But I'm just saying to people that when you read it, you accept or reject it. When I read something, I'm saying that I hold on to it, or I chew on it a little longer, I set it aside and have it come back to me and let me think about it. There's that meditation and contemplation thoughts again. It's saying that I have to accept. But do you want to believe something because someone tells you to believe? I can't do that.
No.
That's politics.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the government.
Sorry, but that's
I don't want to go into that area.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. That's
because
government.
John says
Politics.
how sometimes one word will inspire a thought, and there are many times we're studying the Bible, and I lost them because I went back a couple of pages. I think half of my Bible, the pages have notes on them, so I can refer back. And I guess you shouldn't write in the Bible, but I do.
So do I. Yeah.
But I write
circle
certain notes.
yellow or
Yeah, me too. I do.
Yeah, and I'll refer to, the book of John, or refer to a marker, and I tie them all together, and he's still going, and I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
I'm already researching.
But what does that mean, Phil?
Give me food for thought. Are you making me
Sure,
study?
of course. It means that you're reaching into you
That's right.
and getting you to think. And sometimes that's positive and sometimes it's negative. But in most respects, it's saying it says that you're immersed into it, that it becomes part of you. And I think when you're immersed in the Bible, when we talk about the Bible, when you become part of it, it becomes part of you. Remember, it's also an inspired book. It's inspired.
And you have to remember, most Bible studies last an hour and 15 minutes. Our Bible study lasts 3, 4
hours.
4.5 hours, 5 hours. Oh, really? We've sat there only because it flew by. There was so much interest in it.
Discussion, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And questions and
I completely lost. I couldn't wait. Wow, it's already 3 hours and we're still sitting there. And that's unusual for me.
we don't get
to
very
sit there.
far, the chapters.
No, sometimes we take 20 minutes
Yeah.
on one paragraph or
Yeah,
more.
right.
But I think it's most wonderful.
So much
thing.
interesting and fun.
So what it says is question and doubt, and
That's
don't be
right.
afraid to ask.
Yeah.
right.
So if it doesn't serve you anymore, they shouldn't feel guilty if they want
No,
more
of course
answers and they
not.
want to maybe look
Search
elsewhere.
out for yourself.
Search elsewhere, right?
Well, I'll
Don't feel
stop
tied.
him. I will stop John and say, wait a minute, let's go back to that. Explain that to me again, because I missed a boat over there.
Right.
And then I write another note.
You see, you have to look at that spirituality and religion apart. You have to look at in terms of the power in which it speaks, what it holds to you. And for me, it's not, well, I have to read the whole Bible. No, you have to read the whole Bible. You could read part of the Bible, be part of it, go to another part. You don't have to go to the whole thing and be, there's no meaning to that for me. Go in slow, deliberate levels, time, pace it. That is growth for me. Is it quantity or quality you want?
Right.
And you see, I feel that I much rather spend the time on a passage or even a sentence. Even as Phil says, like I said, I'm connected to a word. I would contemplate on that word, okay? And I could write on that word, on a word. So I could write something on truth. I could write something on love. One word,
Right.
and you could see that where a person could write poetry, a poem on one word.
Right.
Write a story on one word. Phil wrote a book on the theme, had to do with a history, but it had to do with love. But the theme was there. as the Bible is the theme is salvation. Look at the Bible,
Right.
okay? It's there. The gospel alone will carry you through. You know, I find it amazing that way.
So they should not be afraid to question. They should not be
No,
afraid to
no.
search. They should not be afraid to leave that particular religion if they want to.
If you go to a Bible study or a church and you don't question, then you really are not learning anything.
You
Good
said
point.
something when we were talking before, which I thought was kind of profound. I know that we were similar in the fact that one day we both said to ourselves, there's got to be more to life than what we're doing. Remember that? We both had at different ages, but we both said that. Okay, and then you said the other day, you said, ask yourself, are you happy with your life? Do you feel empty inside even though your life is going well? Why do you think that is? Remember you said that? So
Well, yes,
I'm going to
I
explain
actually,
that to people because I'm sure a lot of people feel that way.
well, there's a lot of people out there
Yep.
who are missing something within them. And they may turn to alcohol or drugs or trying to fulfill something. And it's not going to work.
No.
That emptiness, if you're out there and you're thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. Not a light bulb went on. Now, just try. Oh God, just try him for a little while.
Yeah, that's good.
And if you can't reach God, like I had a fear of him, I guess, when I was brought up.
Me too.
So I went to his mother. I figured she'd help me out, and it worked. It worked for me.
Yeah.
She guided me to him. Yeah.
Going back to what you mentioned earlier, remember I said I had gone through a transition towards spirituality, that junction level. But I'm just saying to a person that's reaching that level where they want to change, that's normal. That's a normal process because you have what you have, and then the transition takes place. But the transition to a direction, and my magic word, the word I love.
Yes.
What's the word I love?
Choice.
I love the word choice. I'm just saying a transition occurs, but what I'm saying to you is that when you make the transition, you must have be informed
Right.
in terms of your direction so that your choice is solid. So when you make the transition, look carefully, be informed about what you're going to choose, and then choose. And then you're going to find that in the passage of time, this is not mine either. And yes, go through the same stage again. But give it a chance to develop, okay? And I think everyone should have a chance to understand what they have at the point and then make the transition and then make the choice. But whatever it is, be informed on it. Let's don't jump to it. I have problems with cults and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah.
needs, or because it satisfies one need, but it's not covering what you truly need. It only has a taste of it. So I'm just saying to be informed. Make
Yes.
the choice, but please be informed.
You're
Raisa.
right.
Right.
You're right about that. Be informed because there are a lot of cults out there that
I don't
want
know
to
if
grab
that's
you.
spiritual wisdom or what, but
Yeah. No. You're right. They
No,
want to grab
exercise
you.
your free will.
yes.
Enjoy your freedom to be able to choose because this is spirituality or this is religion, and you have the right to choose. You have the freedom to do
That's
that.
it, Carl.
You
Right.
have the freedom
You
to do
got it.
that.
If you could reach out to somebody out there and ask them.
Sorry, yeah.
If you ask them, are you watching the show and you feel something missing in your life?
Yeah, it would be nice
That
if we
would
could do
be
that.
nice.
But they can always, when they see the show, they can always write to me,
That's right.
email, call. There's a phone number that we're going to give you right now. We have to give our contact information
Yeah,
because
we're right at the
finished.
end. I can't
Oh,
believe
wow.
it.
Can't believe it.
I know.
You're
All
right.
right.
That time went fast. Bill.
Okay, so they have to come back, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We'll finish up the questions.
I don't know if they want us back.
No, I think so. Next show. Okay, we'll give our contact information now. And you can call us, like Phil said, and ask questions anytime. For me, it's Rosemary LaChance. Phone is 203-627-7966. Email whitebuffalo@comcast.net. And my website, and the important one, www.gabrielle-publishing-house.com. And Carla?
I'm Carla Augustin, And you can get in touch with me on my website at www.carlaaugustin.com. And also would love it if you watch my show on YouTube. You just go in YouTube and type in my name, and the show is called Spiritual Invitation.
Okay, everyone.
You can be
Thank you for
night.
joining us. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Feel your thirst beside the river.